everything is changing. We are
Yeah.
changing, our consciousness is changing, how we view what we've been through is changing. I am a firm believer that there is some kind of an event coming. There's some acceleration of all of this stuff, and there seems to be a very big indication that original pairs are coming back online and are going to play a crucial role in the event itself. I think we bring the event by what we're doing.
Still and silent, calm before the storm. Gold and diamond, jewels behind the throne. Into the night, out of the dark, take to the sky, chasing the stars. All that we said, all that we are, waiting to fly. This is the start. Hide and seek, reason and rhyme, grand and glorious. Living the dream, yours and mine. Euphoria.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. And if this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Debbie Dubois, and today I'm going to do a video with my friend Hamish Bartholomeaus, who has actually been on my channel before. We did 2 videos in July, and we had such a great response that we thought we would come back and update you on some very interesting developments that we have found and kind of let you in on some of the conversations that we've had. But before I bring him in, I wanted to announce a little bit of housekeeping in that I have changed the moniker of my channel. You will notice that it is now True Sacred Union. And those of you who have followed my work for a long time know that I worked for years under that moniker, True Sacred Union. I had a YouTube channel, I have a website, I have Facebook groups, and I actually pulled away from that work. Well, first of all, I lost control of the True Sacred Union website when I was censored for another channel I had. And so I lost access to that. But in truth, I had pulled away from a lot of that kind of work. And I was working and dealing mostly with self-empowerment. I was on my own journey. And so it didn't seem like a big deal at the time. And when I launched What on New Earth, it really was because I expected fully to be working on a whole bunch of empowerment aspects. But the truth is that I have been led full circle back to what people call the catalytic heart awakening path. And a lot of developments that are happening right now have reignited me to realize the importance of this work. And I know there are a lot of people that are like, ooh, that's a cringy word when you say twin flames, or, you know, either because you've been through it or because you're looking at it from the outside thinking, what's wrong with these crazy people? I think most of us have really wanted to step back from it, except for a lot of people who are thinking of it more as like soulmates used to be back in the day. So the truth is it really turned out that all the work that we did on that path, and I'm speaking those of you who are watching this, and I know who's watching this, you're about ready to see some of the shifts and changes that you've been waiting to see. Now, does that mean, oh, just jump right back into your journey? No, it doesn't. There's a lot of shifts and changes that are happening right now, and I feel really strongly called to reconnect with my sisters and my brothers that I went through all of this with in the community, and you know who you are. So if you're back and you're finding this video, reach out to me, message me, say, where are you at on this journey? Because I know a lot of you. And I think, you know, I'm going to be getting into more of that in the conversation with Hamish about where we're at. But I wanted to let you know that that's the reason why I decided to go back to True Sacred Union. I will be focusing on what I call, and other people are terming, original pairs, which to me is the right side up version of what we've been dealing with in the inverted false matrix, which was the crazy twin flame world. There were two videos that Hamish and I did, and I am linking them below. I'm sure I'll mention them again with Hamish. Those videos are really fascinating in discovering like some of the things that had really interfered with us. So if you haven't seen twin flame healings or twin flame interference and twin flame healings, you might want to go back and watch those two videos. I think they're extremely important. I don't like watching my own videos, and I really enjoyed watching those videos again. Hamish is extremely articulate, and he brings to things the divine masculine perspective that I so desperately need, and I'm sure a lot of you do as well. So, anyways, if you have any questions or anything about the change in my channel, please comment below. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Hamish, and we're going to have a great conversation. So, it has been a minute. Hamish, how you doing?
Doing very well, thank you, Debbie. It's been a little while, yeah. There's a bit of water's gone under the bridge in the last 3 months.
Oh my gosh, has it ever? But I figured it'd be a really good time for us to catch people up on what we've been doing over the last couple of months, and maybe take a little bit of a review, look back at, what got us here in the first place in terms of, talking about this subject at all. Because I know that I really wasn't planning on talking about this subject, were you?
No,
Was this
no,
something?
this wasn't on my radar at all.
I know, that's what's so funny about all of it. And I think maybe what I'll do is I'll catch up the viewers that, have not seen the first two videos. I am going to put the links below, but I want you to know just a little bit. We'll just review a little bit about what brought us to this point to where we're having this conversation at all. And it really started when I've been on the what people call the catalytic heart awakening journey for, gosh, I don't know, about 12 years. And we ended up meeting when we met through a group, but when he started talking about technology that he had seen on people that were having and experiencing the catalytic experience that you get when you get the crazies, the twin flame crazies. I wanted to know more about that. We found out that I, in fact, did have some patterns on me, which I had pretty much demagnetized, although the counterpart had not really. So there was still constantly this ping ponging back and forth. And then pretty much once I discovered that pattern, we worked together so that I could go a little bit further on that disempowerment journey I experienced. From there, we ended up having a lot of people jump on and be interested because a lot of people were experiencing that kind of interference. And so Hamish ended up doing a lot of work with people, and a lot of people in my circle, but also attracted people from all over the community that we were in. And from there, where did we go from there?
Yeah.
So
Well,
go ahead, go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say it's something that the patterns or the distortions or the programs or whatever word we want to give it, it's kind of all the same thing, but it's not specifically a divine counterpart twin flame thing.
Right.
It's something that will can show up on everyone and affect personal life and affect relationships, whatever relationships, work or family, but it's when you see that divine counterpart type of template where you get these two beings that really, really make a bit of magic together and spark each other off. That's when the fireworks happen regarding the templates or the patterns that are on them, that have been put on them, or whatever, like these programs that they really because there's so much energy behind them, the programs really rub together. And like you said, you get the twin flame crazy fireworks stuff. It gets
Right.
quite dramatic sometimes.
Yeah, and we ended up seeing quite a few cases of that. And after that, we really expanded into realizing how much trauma a lot of people were experiencing. And that was the second video that we did, was an update on our first video, where we realized how many people were suffering from PTSD because they'd gone through so much. And even since then, I can say the consensus among all of the people that I worked with, that I am still in contact with almost all the people that I was helping over the years, even if they just pop in and say hello or pop in when they see one of my videos. And it's almost unanimous. There seems to be a shutting down of the heart, like the inability to open that heart again, almost
Mm.
like it's a post-traumatic stress disorder reaction. So all of this was happening at the time, and of course we put out two videos. I highly encourage you, you don't have to watch them to watch this video, but it will be so much more clear and helpful for you. And if you've been on this journey, or if you know people that have been on this journey, or you feel like you might have been on this journey, you might want to take a look at those two videos, because they're, I would say that once I went through the process of discovering those patterns and then clearing them and realizing that I did clear a lot of them, but I had some tweaks to make, that enabled me to step more into an empowered state. And then the show really started, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like trying to think. It's like trying to think when you've had too many drinks
Or too
or
much
whatever.
coffee.
Yeah, too. Yeah, and you look at the person and say, "What do you mean you didn't think of it? Like, how could you not think of that? Why wouldn't you try that?" And it just never occurred to them, because when you've got that fog of trauma or pain or whatever going on,
Right.
it is really hard to think. Like in the way we're taught, anyway, it's very hard to think.
Right.
So it's the removing of the distortions in the field or the programs or whatever, the patterns,
Hmm.
just gives people breathing space where they can actually take a breath and get a bit of clear air and go, that's me. Like now I can hear me, as opposed to hearing whatever that other static was.
There
And it
was
can be profound.
another, I was going to say, there's another aspect of the discovery of these patterns that dawns on me, and that is the people, surprisingly, that we worked with on in my circle. Of course, some of them were what would be considered twin flame, from the twin flame community, but some of the most significant differences I saw were in a couple of my family members that you worked
Mm.
with. And what really surprises me, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about that tech in a bit, but what I
Yeah.
really realize is that the dark, or the opposition, or ourselves that set ourselves up to go through this disempowerment game, we were very, very clever in that we shut down a lot of the powerhouses that might not have even known they were powerhouses. Like, they might have come in with some patterns that were not, what do you want to say, that they weren't movers and shakers and here to be the forerunners of the new age, or the ascension process, but they were real badasses.
Yeah.
And you showed me two of my family members are badasses.
Yes, they are.
And that was so enlightening. And I do want to talk about that tech. Maybe not right this minute, but I
Mm.
think the bottom line is that the powers that were, and I say that because I really feel that we have, like, so far overshot we are springing beyond that
Mm.
control structure each day as we get closer and closer. um and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video. Is when we were talking before, number one, I had given up that I had the counterpart, or that I knew who the counterpart was.
Mm.
I was pretty much saying it doesn't mean that there aren't counterparts. It doesn't mean that people's journeys aren't valid. It doesn't mean that you're not with that person. But there's an element that made itself known during the last 3 months that I guess deep down in my heart I understood and I knew about, but I hadn't really seen it the way I do now, and that is the idea of original pairs.
Mm.
And once I had that awakening to original pairs, and we had talked a little bit about, there are people that we came in to play the game with, I think. I don't know how much we got into it, but
Mm.
once I started to realize that the original pairs is a thing, and
Mm.
we ended up in an inverted, in the upside down, what we call the false matrix, or the matrix.
Mm.
We're suffering from what can only be described as the inversion of original
Yeah.
pairs. And
Mm.
so once we had discovered that, I knew that I was ignited again. And everything made so much more sense because I'm like, why did I have to go through all that? Why did I
Yeah.
have to go through that? And I cannot be alone in that.
Mm.
So who's with me? Who watching this video? Put a big hand up. Just put your hand up down there in a comment. Me, because I know how many people feel that way. In fact, it's cringeworthy. The word twin flame is cringeworthy. Either you've been in the community and you're like, I don't want to know anything more about that, or you were witnessing what everyone was going through and said, that's just crazy bullshit. I don't want any part of it. So imagine finding out that original pairs exist. And here's kind of the really good news is that that path may really not be for nothing.
Mm.
It may play a very significant role in us making the leap to the next level, to that heavenly realm. Some people call it 5D. I call it the fifth realm. I call it graduation. Let's please get not really, but I mean, let's just please get to that space where we're completely awake again. That would be really nice.
Mm.
So what are you thinking about, Hamish?
That's a good question. Um, what am I thinking about? I'm thinking about the interesting layup of the original pairs actually, and how that works, and how I was actually thinking about how even if you're not with an original pair, like maybe you don't have an original pair, because I don't know if everyone has one or not. That's not something I've gone looking for,
Right.
but I was thinking about the idea of a pair in general, and how there are so many traditions all over the realm, the world, where there's very specific work that you can do, and you don't have to be married, and you don't have to be living with someone, and you don't, there's all like, but the work needs to be done with a partner, and the partner needs to be of the opposite sex, because there's this energy thing that goes on. And when you're working, because all energy is sexual energy really, but there's this energy thing that goes on where when you're going to work at a certain level, there just is polarity that exists in your body because you're in a physical body. And there seems to be, now I don't know if it's true, but there
Right.
seems to be a case where there just are some things you're not going to be able to do with one physical body. There needs to be two, and they need to be polarized. It has to be male and female. So
Right.
even if the divine counterpart, sacred pair, original pair, even if that's not a thing for everyone, there is definitely an energetic polarity thing going on in here. And there are some things that just don't really seem like they can be accessed without that.
Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting.
mm,
What's got you?
yeah.
What what's been going on with you? Like what kind of examples are you thinking of? Like, I mean, I'm thinking, hey, here we are. We're actually doing some work together to educate people on the stuff that we're figuring out about. And the path for us has been really, for me, has been really, really healing, because
Mm.
I consider you to be an example of an awakened masculine that is very balanced in your energy. So you've obviously done your soul work through, the years. We've talked a little bit about that. And
Mm.
you have a really good perspective of the divine masculine that really brings balance to, like, the things that I have experienced that were, what do you want to say, not balanced.
Mm.
So, for
Yeah.
those of us who have been on the counterpart path or whatever, having experienced distortion in the way I want to say the way the partnership doesn't come together. For
Yeah.
me, it's been very healing to work with you, because you bring the perspective of the healed masculine. You bring the balance of the divine masculine. And I have done my healing work, and so I therefore am the same, in that I can bring my healed feminine to a situation to look at the different viewpoints, if you will, and
Yeah.
explore, if any situation you're talking about in terms of relationships or whatever, it's having that other aspect to bounce things off of. Now, for
Mm.
me, that is a great gift. And so that's just an example of
Yeah.
how that work can be done. What other kind of work do you see? Like, are you talking about like energetic work for healing, or are you talking about battle, or what are you talking about?
Well, I think probably it applies to everything. I think it really does. I mean, you could be as physical and 3D about it as saying just look at the statistics for children and their pathways and trajectories if they grow up in a house with a male and a female, as not even as parents, just in the house. And this is what I'm getting at is we don't have to say you need a mother and a father.
Right.
That's not what the conversation is about. The conversation is about the polarity of the masculine and the feminine
And
and
the
how that plays
balance.
out. Yeah,
Right.
and the balance, even no matter how that organizes itself, that children that grow up in houses where there is a masculine and a feminine, even if they're not the parents of the children, have more, I mean, improved is the wrong word, but you know what I mean. They have more scope. They have more expansion. They have a better trajectory in their life, emotionally, physically, energetically. And there are just statistics coming out of people's ears about that sort of stuff. And so that's a very basic way of looking at it, but
Yeah.
you can really apply that to anything, I think, and see that there's a like you say, there's a healing and an expansion that goes on when the masculine can be masculine and the feminine can be feminine. And we've heard a lot in the last 10 years more about the attack on the divine feminine and patriarchy of the church and society and absolutely that's absolutely a thing. But the other thing that because the way that was done was through one big strong masculine figure like a king or a pope or whatever, right? A
Right.
town councillor. You've got this head of the family, this one strong masculine that overpowers everything. But that's also an attack on the divine masculine,
Yeah.
because then you end up with this one that's a harem situation. Here's the one strong male who's got 10 wives or 20 or whatever it is.
Good point.
What happens to all the males that are in that system underneath? They're emasculated. So
Right.
when you attack the divine feminine in the way that it's been done with a patriarchy, you also are attacking the masculine, but that's kind of unseen. And so now we've had a good 10 years of female empowerment, of like post feminism. That's a whole thing to get into. But females, the feminine and women have kind of stepped into this place of, oh, that's right, we do have power, and it can be overt as well as covert. We don't have to hide it. This is all, we can be out here with it and taking our power back. And they're looking around and going, where are all the effing men? Where did they go? And they're there, but they're they're not allowed to speak on certain things. They don't know if they should. That now there are a lot more there than you'd think. A lot of them are just kind of keeping quiet in the corner. But it's a reasonable question: is where is the masculine? Because the masculine is just as damaged by that patriarchy as the feminine. Because if you put your head up and say the wrong thing as the masculine, you'll get taken out as well. So it's definitely a two-pronged attack, and we've seen the pushback in the last few years with that reclaiming the divine masculine. But as always happens, when the pendulum swings back the other way, it goes too far, and you get ridiculousness. And so it's like it's being able to look at the whole thing and be sensible about it and go, yeah, this has been a systematic attack on both sides, and both sides need healing because we've all got a bit of PTSD around it. And you can't be intimate and you can't be in your heart, which is where all the power is, if you're worried that something's going to take you out all the time.
Right.
And it's being able to both come back into that place, like the feminine and the masculine, and have that intimacy with each other and with ourselves, I think.
There is a big push in the spiritual community, and particularly in the twin flame community, for us to balance our feminine and masculine energies. And,
Yes.
you know, I agree with that to some extent, because I know that I'm Sagittarius and I know that's a structure. But the structure of the Sagittarius, if that's a template put over me, whatever you want to call it, is a masculine sign. I know that I tend to be a person of action. I don't like to sit around waiting for things to happen. I'm a doer. I make things happen. I guess you could say that that would be kind of a masculine quality, the person that puts it into a material form. So I understand that balancing feminine, masculine energy is part of the process. But I think that in I want to say it's that maneuver we were talking about in one of our last videos about the opposition really trying to stop us coming into our empowerment, stop this process, was to confuse us with inner balance and thinking that like men need to be more like women and women need to be more like men. Or, you know, we're talking, there are people that, you know, same sex, or we were getting into trans communities and stuff like that. It's like, and I'm very sensitive to all of those issues, because we are all pretty wounded from the experience of being here embodied during this particular period of time. Throughout the course of history, there's always been something. But now is the time we're getting ready to leap into that new consciousness. So there's been an accelerated push to keep us down. And I guess what, you know, I want to know is, like, I know that I have really come into a much better balance where I am realizing I do want to receive. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think when you've been on the ascension journey I've been on, and I know a lot of other people that are watching, if they're have been on the twin flame path, they've literally had to become everything. They've had to become the man. They've had to become the woman. They're by themselves. They did their spiritual work. They learned how to stand in their own power and not be in codependent, needy relationships. And they've come into a space where they're whole and they're by themselves. Trying to be a mom and a dad. Not only and I don't want a stereotypical, you know, lawn care and housework and all that stuff. Because the truth is, we all do it all, or
Yeah,
we
we
pay
do.
someone to do it, and it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. But the teamwork that goes along with a successful union of a functioning masculine feminine relationship, whether, like you said, whether they're married or not, having that dynamic. So the question then becomes, where do we go from here? And I kind of have a little inkling of some stuff that's coming, but I mean, in your opinion,
Mm.
what has to take place for for those of us who have really stepped into our empowerment, and maybe even
Mm.
closed our hearts a bit because we, didn't really end up
Yeah.
having that two partnership kind of thing. What are some of
Mm.
your thoughts on it? Do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, there's one part in there that I'm thinking is that when we say we want to know, we want to remember. Let us remember. Like, why can't we know all this stuff? And then put yourself in the position of knowing, absolutely knowing in yourself, 100% that that person over there is your divine counterpart, but and you're willing to go further than halfway to make the distance, but they're either not going to admit it or they're not ready to move. And
Right.
so, if you didn't know they were the divine counterpart, how much easier would life be? You'd still
Right.
be doing your work, you'd be going along doing your stuff, everything would be coming up, but you wouldn't always be looking out there. What's going on? When's he going to? When's she going to? When's it going to work? So there's that ignorance is bliss thing, right? If there's a real um, discipline and mastery to knowing the full situation and knowing that timing is everything. And if the timing's not there, then it's not there. And you've just got to get on with something else. And that's
Right.
not a very helpful thing to say.
Right.
But I don't know what else to say around that. Like there is a pattern, there is a script, a baseline script or pattern that is playing out. I mean, we call it astrology or astronomy or whatever, but there is this thing that runs on a clock mechanism in here,
Right.
and a good astrologer will tell you what has happened to you and what is going to come up for you. What they can't tell you is how you'll respond to it. They'll tell you how they think you will respond to it, looking at your inherent patterns in your template,
Mm-hmm.
but that's still not how you will actually respond to it. That's just a really good guess. If you're the more conscious you are and the less unconscious you are, and the more you've dealt with your unconscious and your patterns and all that stuff, then no one knows how you're going to behave to
Right.
these things that come up around you. And one of the things might be, hey, you do have a divine counterpart, but you don't get together at all physically. Hey, you do have a divine counterpart, but you don't get together at all until much later on. And so if you knew that, would it make it any better? Maybe not. It still might be really hard, but that's that
Mm-hmm.
that's that discipline of not being I mean, we're all students, right? But not being the grade 2 student, being more the grade 12 or the university student that's actually got students of their own,
Right.
where you're seeing a lot more of it, and some of it you've just got to suck up a bit and go, yeah, yeah, this isn't going to be easy, but that's not in my control. So what can I do around the situation that is in my control?
Well, and
And
most of the people that are listening to this have gone through that process, and most of them have completely released the idea of counterparts. I'm
Mm,
not, and so, like I said, that was one of the breakthroughs that I had when I finally said, wow, this was a setup. I got a pattern on me. This person is not my counterpart, whatever it is. There was a
yeah,
moment of being set free.
yeah.
That set free, like, wow, I don't have to think about it anymore. I don't have to ruminate over it anymore. Um, but
But that's
still,
truth. That's small t truth, but it's not capital T truth, isn't it? Like
exactly.
you've got that situation going on and it sets you free, but it doesn't set you completely free and you're not sure why. And
Right.
it's because the actual truth is this person is your counterpart,
Right.
and you have to be able to admit that, at least to yourself, before you're going to be able to get anywhere. And that's harder than going, I thought it was my counterpart, but I had this distorted pattern and so did they, and it was the pattern that brought us together. and they're not my counterpart. You clear the patterns, you should be home and hosed, but you're
Right.
not.
Right.
Why not? Because, yeah, you had distorted patterns, but you actually were counterparts. And now you've got to be able to admit that to yourself
And
and still be
realize
okay with the fact that you're not together.
and accept the fact that you could possibly not be together in this lifetime.
Yep.
And that is harder than saying, oh, this person isn't my counterpart.
Oh, much harder.
I know.
Much, much,
I know.
much harder.
I
Yeah.
know, but the truth is, I know so many, and I'm gonna say most of the counterparts that I know and I've worked with, most of them are women,
Mm.
and they are, I would say, truly at the place in their life where they are creating new stuff. They have begun what I'm referring to as their new spiritual stories, which is actually something that's astrologically happening this week, where we know what we're here to do. It's kind of why I'm, switching this back over to True Sacred Union, because I know that there is a mission that my inner being has given me. They're all doing that. Every one of them that I know has something major they're working on. And it's not that they're not aware that they're counterparts, and it's not that they've given up, but they've come into what I would call it as acceptance. But
Yeah.
something has come up recently, and it is one of the reasons why, I wanted to keep having these conversations. And that is that many people are getting the direct memos, words from home, whatever you want to call it, that says the original pairs, that distortion that created the twin flame community, that the template is being restored, that it is
Yeah.
being healed. And
Mm.
and there is going to be, for those people who have, given up completely and said, okay, well, I know who my counterpart is, but that ain't never going to happen.
Mm. Yeah.
There is indications that could change.
Yeah.
Not
And so
not
it,
saying in my personal situation, but I'm talking about, and that's why I feel called to have conversations like this, because there's still work to be done,
yeah.
because we're getting ready. Word has it November's coming around, and there is some big stuff coming as a result of this eclipse season that
Mm.
could really rock some people. Now, there are some people that are going to dig their heels in, and they're going to say, nope, not doing that. And you want to know what? That's fine. See you on the other side. When we make the leap, you can live with yourself that you didn't do that, and you didn't follow your heart. But
Well, it's just going to make it harder work. Like if now here's the if, because not everyone agrees with this story, but if we're in a distorted, upside down illusion that's
Right.
not, what we see and what we hear and what we think is not what's going on at all underneath energetically. And anyone who goes astral or gets out of the body and actually sees what's going on in some different areas will, just watch some of Jeff Mara or anyone. Like 2 minutes of anyone being out of their body will tell you that there really is something going on. So if that's the case, then either we're stuck in here forever and bad luck, we're all just talking to ourselves in here, or there's something going on where this is going to flip and
Yeah.
we're going to get out of here, or it's going to get shut down very soon. And the cleaner, and this is just the message that I've kind of been getting all my life, is the cleaner you are when it happens, whatever that is, the cleaner you are and the clearer and the more coherent you are when it happens, the better it'll be.
Right.
Now, I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that I'm not the only one that's ever got that message. So I find out later on as an adult, and it makes a lot of sense that if there's a transition coming, the more work you can do on yourself to get yourself coherent and less distorted, then the better you're going to be when it happens. And that's all you really need to be aiming for, is this is going to happen. I mean,
Right.
at the end of the day, we can say, well, you're going to die. Everyone dies. You're going to die. That's an absolute given in here. So the cleaner and clearer and more coherent you are when whatever happens, even if that turns out to be death, the better off you're going to be. And so let's get back to it. Like let's keep checking the blind spots. Let's help each other with checking the blind spots. Let's
Well, and when
keep
you
moving.
say that, what comes to my mind, and I would like to have this conversation about self empowerment and empowerment in general. There's a lot of very limiting beliefs for those of
Mm.
us who really got catalyzed in a spiritual journey. Like I was catalyzed at a very young age, and I think I've mentioned this before. It's like goes all the way back to like Shirley MacLaine and Dancing in the Light and the Celestine prophecies and a lot of the old time spiritual Law of One, Course of Miracles, and I know a lot of those a lot of those are doctrines from in here, but they were catalyzing me into a spiritual place where I was so much more aware of the nature of things, the unseen, rather than just obviously interested in what's right in front of me.
Mm.
And during that process of awakening and being around a lot of people that weren't through school and through college and in work situations, when we finally had the internet come along, and I don't know, when was it, 2004, 2005? I
Mm.
don't even remember. I remember chat rooms, message boards, um, even free conference calls where people would get on and talk. And
Yeah.
then, well, it must have been a little bit before that because I started doing web design way back in the late 90s. So we had the internet. But I mean, we're talking about when social media started.
When it bumped, yeah.
As
Yep.
soon as the social media started, it's almost like that was when the real new age culling began. And I want to
Mm.
say it seems like because it was so full of positivity and light and everything that you would think of as opposite of darkness, everyone gravitated towards it and they were sharing memes that, were love and light, and everyone would share them and we'd get on and we'd have conversations, and everyone was in this space of blissing.
Mm.
And I am pretty sure now, looking back on it, and we've kind of talked about this to some degree, that a lot of those concepts really disempowered a lot of people. Let's just put it
Yeah, it
that
sure
way.
did. It
And
sure did.
let's talk about that a little bit. What
Mm.
do you think about that?
Well, yeah, and that's a thing of there are a lot of concepts that if you throw them out in the wrong context, it's not that they're not true, but when you deliver a whole lot of concepts like that to people with no counterbalance at all, out of context, then it gets to the point of, oh well, the realm, the realm, the world, whatever, the simulation is closing out, it's all done, we've already won, so now we just sit down and wait. We
Yeah.
just now it's all love and light, we're all one. So even evil in here is just an illusion, so it really doesn't matter, and so it's okay. No.
That's a big
Sorry.
one. We're all one.
Yeah.
And
And it is
yeah,
the reason all this stuff works is because it's true.
right.
Like it's true that we're all one from a frequency point of view or an energy point of view or what, even the Bible people will say we're all one, like it, because nothing else actually makes sense. But out of context, that doesn't mean anything, and it will actually point you in the wrong direction and make you bypass a lot of stuff that needs doing,
Right.
actually. So just because we all come from the same energy field, which means we're all made out of the same stuff, which means we're all one, doesn't mean we all just get into a big blissed out hug and everything's done and it's all over. Like
Right.
it's not going to
Well,
work that way.
that was one of the big discoveries that I think is probably the biggest discovery that I confirmed in the last, well, since I had my inner being really connected in March of this year. That was
Mm.
the part that I was really shown, is how we are each our own individual creator beings. And as creator beings, we have an independent consciousness of our own that we take with us wherever we go. And when I
Mhm.
visited my greater inner being in a meditation, what it became so apparent to me is that she appeared to me as a feminine, so I'm just going to say she is my
Yep.
home. When we talk
Yeah.
about going home, she is my home. And when
Yep.
I had the experience, there was no one that was ever going to love me more. There was no one that was ever going to be grateful for all I had been through, that was ever going to appreciate me better, would take care of me in terms of knowing where I would go, what I needed to do, because obviously we don't have all our memories in here. But I
Yeah.
knew that that piece of me, that bigger piece of me, that I would consider my Godhead, that is
Mm.
my energy at its core, that I'm
Yep.
sure is part of a much bigger. But the thing that I was showing is we have individuated consciousness, and we will
Absolutely.
continue to have individuated consciousness, and we will
Yeah.
continue to want to play in different realities and
Yeah.
realms and
Yeah.
constructs, and we'll want to create our own constructs. So once I saw that, when I started to realize that a lot of what the New Age community was trying to do was to say, let it go and let God decide. Let it go and let Source decide. Let it go and let this
Yeah.
guru decide. And while I,
Which
go ahead.
can work. It can work in certain situations, but
Right.
that's like that only applies. It's like the monk saying, "How come?" The fella saying to the monk, "How come you said that thing to that person, but that thing to that person? That's totally opposite." He's like, "Well, we're all walking down a path, and some people are veering off to the left, and I say go right, and some people are veering off to the right, and I say go left, go left." So not everyone's going to need the same instructions to get themselves back on track again. But the biggest, I mean, the deception, if we're going to talk about New Age, because I inadvertently studied a lot of the stuff that the New Age came from.
Right.
And so once I realized they were using the same language, I went, oh, this is all theosophy. This is all anthroposophy. This is all like 1850s to 1920s European spirituality with all the Eastern stuff rolled in and kind of mixed around. And it's just getting regurgitated again and again and again because the language is identical. And what the New Age misses, and we can say it's deliberate and it's a deception, or it's just they missed it somehow and it was a mistake, is they miss the paradox. And
Okay.
when you don't talk about the paradox, you just leave people hanging. Like, we're all one, yeah, and we're all individual.
Right.
Like that's the paradox. And if you can't hold both of those things in, I don't know, outside, but when we're in here, if you can't hold that paradox and still be coherent, you're really going to struggle.
Right.
Because when you get down to the base frequencies of what's going on in here, it is paradoxical, completely paradoxical. And so you need to be able to talk about both sides of being everything and being nothing all at once.
Right.
And if you can't kind of do that, you're going to miss it somehow, and you will deceive yourself, or you'll get deceived, and you'll end up in a backwater somewhere, not where you want to be. And
Well,
that twin flame, that's the twin flame thing as well. I can remember we were talking about this earlier, and I was thinking about it. You know, when I first came across the twin flame stuff, I'd been in a relationship for probably just guessing random numbers, 6 or 7 years. I'd been married for 7 years. So been together for maybe 8 or 9. And I was coming across all of this stuff for the first time. And I remember coming across the twin flame stuff. And my initial reaction to it was, well, that's for people where it's gone all wrong. Like there was no good twin flame experience. It was all crazy. All of it was crazy.
yes.
And so I completely just went, well, that's a heading, that's a setting that I don't have to look under, because I'm not in a crazy relationship. I'm in a very different sort of relationship to that. And so I just closed the book on that whole thing and didn't
Right.
look at it, because it was so out of balance. It was so one-sided
Right.
when what I could get. And I didn't dig into it far enough,
Right.
but what was sitting on the surface, all it was talking about was the craziness of the twin flame situation. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just to show a different point is when I came into when I came into the experience. With my experience, we were 100% sure that we weren't those people. I mean, like they talked about the crazies and they talked and we're like, yeah, that's not us. We're true. We're the
Yeah.
true ones because we could go back to an origin point where we knew that this moment had been destined to happen and all of this and so lo and behold, to my surprise, when 9 months to a year in, it started the whole shit up. I was like, wait a minute, no. Because if I had hit the community the way you did and realize, especially you were in a relationship, well, so was I. I mean, I was actually in a marriage. So when I saw the situation happening, I was like, but I didn't have all the crazy. In fact, that was one of the things that, you know, he brought to me was, we're not like the rest of these guys. We're not part of that. So that ignited in me my decision to go in and straighten everybody else out. You see how crazy that is? But
Yeah.
but what he was always trying to tell me is that you're going in and you're speaking to a by and large group of people who don't have a clue what this really is. Now, I thought that that was very judgmental, and I did not buy into that. And as a result, I drew to me a bunch of people that I really believed that were going through this purpose, not for the crazies, not for, I'm just looking for Prince Charming. I'm looking for, you know, the perfect man, or, oh, I like the hot sex stuff. You know, it's not, it
Yeah.
wasn't, I saw a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I ended up attracting to me a lot of people that are still on the same journey I am, which is we really do feel the original pairs is what we experienced. And many of them are still, I don't want to say holding a torch. Listen, none of us need anybody. And in a way,
Yeah.
that's kind of sad.
It is, but it that's the paradox in itself, right?
Right.
We are masculine and feminine and neutral, no matter what physical template we're in. We know energetically we can be balanced if we work on it, or if
Right.
we want to, or whatever that is. We don't need anyone else. But the
Right.
flip side of that is you're in a polarized physical body. So if you want to try and balance out polarity, maybe try and get together with someone in a polar opposite physical body to you and see how that goes. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't.
Right.
But there's the, like, yeah, we don't need anyone, but just because you don't need something doesn't mean it's not going to be very, very beneficial for you.
I don't need chocolate, but it sure makes me feel good.
I mean, what I've seen in hindsight of the looking back in the last few months at that, you know, divine counterpart sacred pair community, is the reason I didn't go into it deeply is because I wasn't having any big problems in my relationship. Like, our relationship was, I mean, there was stuff, there's always stuff, but our relationship was, by and large, we were working it out. And so I wasn't looking for any relationship answers. Whereas if I had been experiencing the intensity that we were experiencing in that relationship at that time,
Right.
and shit was also blowing up all around us, I would have been looking for some answers. And I
Right.
would have been
Yes,
on
you
the
would have.
community,
Yes, you
and I
would
would have
have.
been digging. And so that's why these communities are full of people where everything's blowing up, because the people who it's not blowing up for, they're not looking for answers.
Yes,
They're just sorting it out.
that's the
So
answer. That's the
it's a help.
answer. Yes, go
The
ahead.
community looks crazy because the non-crazy people aren't in the community, because they're not even looking for it. They don't even know it exists.
Right. And that is how a lot of people found out about it. It is how I found out about it. And I think I'd heard of it before, but it was, I can't tell you how many people found my website, True Sacred Union, when I was actually coaching and counseling, which I have not done for a while. I mean, really done. I do a little, but not, I haven't really been one-on-one
No,
coaching in a long time,
You,
but they would find
you do a
me
lot.
through I do. I do so much coaching, don't I?
You do a lot.
I'm doing way too much of everything right now. But I'm saying back then I was actually like really working with people on a regular basis, and most of the people would find me. They would be searching for twin flames or searching for relationship stuff, and looking for answers, and then they would find mine, and mine made the most sense. A long time ago, I was given the term catalytic heart awakening. My inner being, I didn't even know that I had an inner being at the time. I did have that name come to me, and that was given to me to help me and others to understand that this really was a self-empowerment journey, and it really was unlocking all of the blocks that we have to love.
Even in a really well-functioning, healthy, happy, connected marriage,
Yeah.
which I'm in,
Right.
like a wonderful partnership, you can't work on the other person, and you can't make them work on themselves.
Nope.
It's not going to work. You can work on yourself, and you can work on the things that you're both working on together. You can work on
Right.
either together or on your own, but you can't work on them. They can ask you for help and you can help them, but you can't work on them, and you can't make them do any work. Like, never. Doesn't matter whether it's a terrible partnership or the most amazing fairy tale partnership you've ever heard of. That's not going to happen. So even if you're in physical union with your sacred pair, your divine counterpart, your twin flame, it's still a solo mission. You still are responsible for working on you, and they're responsible for working on them. And then the two of you have got this stuff that you'll be working on together. And the more you can accelerate each other to do your own damn work, the better the thing's going to be that you're working on together. But that's it. You can't, there's not some magic thing of now I'm in this absolutely fairy tale, fantastic relationship. We always got to talk about the amazing sex and the amazing energetic connection and this stuff that goes on that is just mind-blowing. Everything else will take care of itself. Well, I can tell you, 17 years of experience, no, it won't take care of itself at all. You'll have all check down the list for twin flame, tick, 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 tick. You'll have all the amazing stuff. You've still got to do your homework. Still got to do your stuff.
Well, and that just gets right into the old relationship model is based on codependency. It was created that way. It was enforced that way. And there are a lot of people that are insisting on staying that way. And unfortunately, there's no place for that in original pairs, because original pairs are individual beings of their own right. There's another misconception and I say, listen, everyone can have their own beliefs. I'm not stating what is and what isn't, but what I now believe for me to be true is that we are not one soul in two bodies. I'm not saying it's not physically possible to have more than one aspect in here, but original pairs are creator beings. So, I mean, while there could be dynamics in this inverted realm where someone decides I'm going to split myself into two, all you got to do is watch Loki. Have you seen the Loki series where he splits himself
it's not
into
wrong.
two? Right.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
It can exist. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but when we're talking about original pairs, they are two creator beings of their own right, and they have to be in their own power. So if one or both is not willing to step in and stop the codependent patterns, it won't work anyways. And what you're talking about is a successful union where you don't have the same dynamic as this world's template. This world's template causes codependency, which ends up causing a lack of intimacy because everyone gets smothered and wants to run away from each other. I don't know what it does.
Yeah. And that's how you enforce slavery, right? Because a slave, just look at prison. The prisoners inside a jail are so dependent on the prison for everything that a lot of them, when they get out, they go and offend so they can get put back in again, because life's actually better in. And even if it's not better, it's safer. Yeah, it's
more predictable. It's, you know what to expect. You don't have to
become
worry.
dependent.
Yes, it's
That's
a dependent situation.
Yeah.
And so
if you're doing that in a relationship, or I mean, like you say, society is saying that's what marriage is, that's what a relationship should be, is a codependent. You've kind of got both sides depending on each other, and if
Right.
you left, I don't know what would happen, and everything would fall apart. And
Right.
that's not a very healthy place to be at all. And we know it's not a healthy place, but there's a lot of us, I think, I
There's
see a lot of people that they're just there anyway. It's just the pattern, it's the template, and they just drop into it.
I think that that's the way everyone's programmed to think. And I think the reason why we have original pairs coming online at this time is that template's got to change. You
Yeah,
cannot
and
go
like
into
you
higher
said,
realms with that. You cannot go into higher realms with codependence. You
and
are not attached to another being on the other side.
yeah, yep, and it doesn't matter. Like you said, it doesn't actually matter what story you want to tell yourself about what's going on in here. Whether it's we're going to save this place, or we're gonna turn it off and leave, or we're just going to get out, and whoever gets out gets out. Whatever one you want to run with there, your better future doesn't exist with any sort of codependent state. So if you are relying on anything in here, you're going to have to deal with that
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah. And so that
And,
has
and
been.
at the end of the day, you've got to really look hard at yourself and say, am I relying on food to live?
Mhm.
Am I relying on water to live? Am I relying on air to live? Like you've really got to break it right down and be really honest with yourself and go, okay, so what are my dependencies in here? And go backwards from air, because you can go however long without food and however long without water. You can go minutes without air.
Right.
But that's only minutes, right? So
Right.
so run back down the list of what you actually are dependent on in here and say, what could I change in that? How could I make that better?
Right. Yeah. I guess we could probably wrap this up. I know we're planning on talking a little bit more. We've got other things that we want to talk about, but I think that's a good jumping in point. What do you think? Is there anything you wanted to sum up with, or?
No, I think that's a good start of just like it's like the lay of the land with a fresh set of eyes. Like what sort of relationship are you in? What sort of energetics are you in? Where it's taking an audit of where you are, and not where you think you are or where you imagine you are, but where you really are.
Right.
And absorbing it with a fresh set of eyes, and then being prepared to move forward from there.
Right. And for those of you who have joined us that have been on this crazy path, or maybe avoided this crazy path, but find yourself listening anyways, because I think that, there's a brand new perspective coming on this whole thing of original pairs, and it is the shift to the new template. And I think that those of us who were in the twin flame path understood that. We knew we were bringing in the new template the whole entire time. I think that a lot of us thought, oh shit, well, it's not going to happen, and nothing's changing. The truth is everything is changing. We are changing. Our consciousness is changing. How we view what we've been through is changing. I would like to suggest that some of us are really looking at, oh my gosh, what blocks to love did I put back on myself because the situation didn't go the way I wanted it to? How can we open our hearts back up to that? But also that at the absolute, we were talking about this earlier, if there is any kind of an event coming, and I can tell you that there are people that have been QHHT sessions, out-of-body experiences, that have literally seen an event coming. We've heard about the event for a long time. I am a firm believer that there is some kind of an event coming. It doesn't mean that it's just, okay, let's just sit around and wait for the event. I think we bring the event by what we're doing. And it is not time to sit around and think, oh, I'll just let anything happen that's going to happen. It's time to put things into action. It is time for us to realize the responsibility that we have. Those of us, if you're listening to this, you know what I'm saying. I mean, we didn't come here to sit around and play house or decorate our homes, or that kind of stuff is fun, don't get me wrong. But we're really here to usher in the return to, I would say, heavenly realms. People call it the 5D. People call it fifth realm. It doesn't matter what you call it. But there's some acceleration of all of this stuff, and there seems to be a very big indication that original pairs are coming back online and are going to play a crucial role in the event itself. So whether or not it's with your original pair, or whether you need to be completely at one with yourself in whatever it is, we're coming back online, people, I guess, is my main reason, for reactivating the channel, as I said in the beginning of my video. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to, first of all, seeing what happens, because it's going to be fast. It's been fast, but it's getting faster as we roll. I don't know. I can't tell if we're running downhill or what's going on in English. But
Yeah.
I really hope you'll join me for another video very soon, Hamish, because I would like to get into conversations about intimacy. I'd actually like to share some information on the tech that you've discovered, and we can maybe do that in the next video. The other thing I'd like to do, because you weren't privy to the Twin Flame community, I would like to take a little history look back at where these programs might have come in, where the crazy started, and so people can identify with the fact that, oh my God, I remember this, because it's really important. I think there's a part of me that really just wanted to forget this whole thing. Just I don't want to remember. But we have to remember, because we didn't do it for nothing. We did it for a reason, and that reason is going to become more and more apparent over the next couple months to a year. So, will you come back and join me in more conversation?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, terrific. Well, thanks so much for your time, Hamish, and thanks for joining us. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. If you know of people on this journey that really could use this message of hope and, anything, please share it. All right, until next time, saying goodbye. Take care.